There's one more tweet that we want to show you. It comes from Stephen Harper's former spokesperson, Andrew MacDougall, and he writes this: "Folks, I can honestly say I would have quit if asked to debase myself like @PressSec just did." And joining us now from London is Andrew MacDougall. Thank you for joining us, sir. Let's start right off the top with, what's your first reaction to Spicer's comments?
Well, there goes his credibility. And the second you do that in that position, you're toast, or you should be toast. If the press isn't going to believe you on something that's easily verifiable, like, say, the size of a crowd, and this isn't from years and years and years ago where technology didn't exist. This is, one of the most photographed events in history. So to go out and lie about that, the press are thinking, what else won't they lie about, where we don't have access to that information? So his credibility shot, gone. Day one, literally day one, he blew himself out of the water.
Sean Spicer, though, is not exactly a Washington outsider. He is someone who has served there for years, including as a spokesperson for the Republican National Committee for some 6 years. So what do you think motivated him?
Well, Donald Trump's gun in his back to send him out there, because the president, we all know from watching him and observing him, is incredibly thin-skinned on things like ratings, crowd sizes. It makes you wonder what he's compensating for. So I think he was being a good soldier, Sean Spicer was, but it was Donald Trump's gun in his back. So Spicer must feel good to wake up this morning and see the New York Times citing a source close to the president saying it went a bit too far. It's one thing to debase yourself, then to get thrown under the bus for debasing yourself by the man you're trying to protect is a bit much.
Well, Andrew, you effectively saw this coming. A few days ago on CBC.ca, you published a piece titled, "The Only Skill Needed to Spin for Trump, a Total Lack of Shame." So you arguably saw this coming. What is the role of an official spokesperson, or in this case, the White House press secretary and the communications director? What role is Sean Spicer supposed to play?
You're supposed to be the credible voice of the administration you represent. I think everybody understands that the leaders of these governments don't have time every day to come out and talk to the press. So you, as the spokesman, are meant to go give the government's view on any number of issues in response to media queries. And as I said off the top, you can only do that when you have credibility. The second you give that credibility up, you're essentially useless to the press. But I think that's what Trump, as I wrote, is going for. He doesn't want there to be a normal relationship between the press and his office holding them to account. He wants to muddy the waters, make everybody frustrated, and make his supporters at home go, look, these guys will never give our guy a fair chance. They're lying about crowd size. They're being mean to our guy. So this is all very deliberate. Spicer went out and made a fool of himself because that's what his boss wanted. And he wants that relationship between the press and his office blown to smithereens, because that's what his supporters think anyway.
You played a similar role under former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, in the sense that you had to be the man who came out and was able to move the message forward. So if you had ever disagreed with something that you weren't comfortable with, how much pushback can you give in that role?
Well, I think it depends. Pushback on policy, if it's the government's policy that's been decided, and I don't happen to personally agree with it, like, say, I didn't on supply management with the government. I don't believe in that. But the government campaigned on it and was elected to deliver that. So I have no problem going out and saying the government supports supply management, because that's the government's view. If the Prime Minister had asked me, which he never did, to go out and say the sky isn't blue, guys, you're all a bunch of liars, like I said, I would have quit. He wouldn't have asked me, but if he asked me to make an idiot of myself, I would have left straight away.
In about an hour, we'll be speaking to the president of the White House Correspondents Association, Jeff Mason. From your perspective, what advice would you give him to cover this Trump White House? I'm tempted to say don't play their game. The media, God bless them, loves to make this about the media and how they're treated. Nobody cares about how the media is treated, or most people don't care. So don't make it about yourself and how you're being treated. Just keep on doing the job of holding the president to account. If he says something that's demonstrably untrue, point that out. But don't debase yourself in response to their lack of seriousness. Don't make it petty and personal. Try to keep it professional. Train your journalistic bullets where they've always gone, which is to governments holding them account, making sure they're not doing the wrong thing. And if they're doing the right thing, explain to people why it is the right thing. But don't make it personal. At the risk of making it about the media, though, there has been struggles in newsrooms right around the world, I know, in terms of how you cover this presidency. As you say, if the sky is blue and someone is saying it's red, do you have to give equal time on that? What should journalists do across the broader spectrum to cover this, the White House, and the way they deal with the truth?
Well, yeah, I mean that's the ultimate question. It might be a bit beyond my mental abilities to suggest a way out for the press, but I think it's just in keeping the tone calm, not hysterical. You know, and this is one of the troubles now in the Twitter age. It's so easy to be snarky, and I love to do it on Twitter as well. But they're just going to have to go in there, be calm, and say, no, as we know, this is the case. Could you please comment on that? And just try to keep the temperature down so that Trump can't point to the media being a bunch of hysterics. And that's going to be an incredibly tough balance to strike for the press. It's not in their nature to take a challenge lying down, nor should they take it lying down, but to take it calmly and evenly and volley back and just hold their feet to the fire. That's what they're paid to do.
Some have suggested we're living in a post-truth world now, are we?
Yeah, it's tempting to feel that way, and that's the great trouble in Western democracies now is who do you trust? You know, it used to be fewer voices, more trusted voices out there mediating a discussion. Now it's literally thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of voices, each one claiming to be credible on their own. So when the President of the United States can go up and cite InfoWars, a noted conspiracy site, as a bastion of truth, you know, we are into that Orwell territory where 2 + 2 = 5. And it's going to take some sort of combination between technology and the fourth estate to create that new trust and confidence in the public sourcing of information.